Geehrte Damen und Herren, im Namen von Limelight Networks und NetMedia Europe darf ich Sie herzlich willkommen heißen zu unserem Webinar So reagieren Sie auf die gestiegene Nachfrage von Online-Videos, wichtige Erkenntnisse und Trends. Mein Name ist Kai Schmierer. Ich bin als Redaktionsdirektor bei NetMedia Europe und als Chefredakteur von ZDNet und Silicon tätig. Die Agenda der nächsten etwa 45 Minuten sieht wie folgt aus. Nach meiner Begrüßung wird Charles Kraus, Senior Product Manager bei Limelight Networks, darlegen, wie Sie Daten untersuchen und quantifizieren, um die Belastung von Netzwerken und CDNs einzuschätzen. Nach der Präsentation werden wir dann noch Zeit haben, Ihre Fragen zu beantworten, die Sie bitte im Webinar-Interface eingeben. Das Webinar wird aufgezeichnet und später on demand zur Verfügung stehen. Einen entsprechenden Link erhalten Sie per E-Mail. Now may I ask Charles Kraus to start his presentation.
Okay, good day everyone. So at Limelight Networks, I have responsibilities in two areas. One is our video delivery services and the other is our cybersecurity services. So it's a nice combination because whenever you talk about video, it's also important to have some security aspects involved as well. So today we're going to talk about all that we understand about record online video demand. It's been pretty amazing globally for us to see basically everywhere in the world the amount of online video that's being consumed since the past 3 months or so. And what I did is I make a report every 2 times a year about online video. And this recent report, we focused on questions that had to do with some of the new behaviors that are coming about with people working from home, with doing a lot more social interaction on things like Zoom and so forth. And we do this for 10 regions around the world. And today we'll focus on the data from basically Germany and this part of Europe. So we'll go through, I'm going to pick out the highlights and show how maybe things are different or the same in Germany as in other places of the world. And during this, we'll talk about some forecast about what may happen. A lot of the new behaviors you will see, people plan to continue longer term. They've gotten used to this. So there are some interesting things that could happen that we'll talk about. So this is during the first half. So this survey was asking about from January up till now, the way they use online video. So it's really taken a new role. It's not just, if we think about online video, maybe people think of movies and these series like Netflix and Amazon and things like that. And that's of course still happening. But a lot more types of uses of video have come about. So one of the things is just the total amount of video people watch has really jumped. At the end of last year in my survey, the average around the world was maybe an hour to 2 hours of online video a day that people claim. But now, overall, it's about 4 hours a day. For Germany, it happened to be a little bit less, so 3 hours and 40 minutes. And a large number of most people said that was a big increase just in the past few months. So not a surprise. They all reported, or a majority reported, that online video allowed them to maintain either half or almost all their daily activities. So we've seen this with virtual workout classes. So people that may do yoga or things like that, doing it from home on their laptop, socializing with friends. We had, with the lockdown and restaurants closed, a lot of people would have virtual lunches. So they would go on Zoom and have lunch with a friend and chat. I know myself personally, I do that a lot. And just keeping in touch with friends, I find more than normal because I don't physically see them as much. Every week I have, like, after work a chat with them or talk to my relatives and do that on video chat. So we're all aware of Zoom and how fast that application has been used. It started in the fall at I think 10 million users for Zoom, and now it's about 300 million typically on a day. So it's an amazing scale up for them. I was really surprised that they were able to scale up so quickly. News. So between news, regular broadcast news, and having a streaming site or just social media, this has become a big thing. You see here 73% of people, and this is across all ages, are streaming news updates about the virus, about safety measures, about just generally what's happening in terms of people's safety. Concerts. It's the summer, and most of us are used to music concerts outdoors. Very, very common thing, and they're just not happening at all. So we're seeing people are happy watching virtual concerts. So we see streaming, some popular musicians from their homes are streaming private concerts out that you can watch. It's happening a lot. So, it's just, these are the kind of habits that are just becoming so ingrained with people that I think they're going to continue for. We mentioned virtual workouts. So if they haven't participated now, most plan to do it, between now and the rest of the year. Working from home. Now, this is a big thing. I know from in the U.S. as well. I'm working from home. I've been working from home now for 4 months, and plan on for the rest of the summer. Our company is telling us things like auctions, live auctions. A lot of people now have had their first experience with that. They don't want to go to a site. We're going to talk about some forecasting, but this work from home is going to have major implications on the commercial office market. I have friends that are in commercial real estate, and they say that almost all of the companies that rent or lease space in their buildings are asking to reduce it. Some have long-term leases and want to stop them, but they can't. But their future plans are to really reduce the amount of office space they use and encourage more people that can work at home to do that. So that'll have a major implication on that market. Doctor's visits. I recently had my yearly physical that I get, and it had to be virtual. The doctor's office doesn't want people to come in, so they basically have a conversation with you and ask you to do a few things and do the checkup that way. And that's something that I think is starting to happen a lot, is just the ability to not always have to go to a doctor's office, but be able to do online and have them ask questions and try to avoid going into the office. But video plays a really nice role in terms of collaboration. So I know myself, talking to my coworkers, we have lots of meetings on Zoom or on chat, and we've gotten very good at being very productive and being able to make decisions and collaborate well this way. And I think seeing people, even though you know them, just seeing everybody's faces and having these kind of meetings together and making decisions, the video really makes you feel better and easier to connect. So again, this is all part of that, making it easy to work at home. And we've seen so many other benefits from this, a lot less people commuting, driving cars. And you've probably seen some of these videos on TV of some cities that are so congested and have so much bad smog. And they show the same city now, and the air is very clear. And they may say, oh, you see those mountains in the background. This is the first time in 30 years that people in the city could see those mountains. So it's had a dramatic improvement on the quality of the air. So the planet Earth has sort of gotten a little bit of a break now. Good time to learn to play musical instruments. So I know several friends that always wanted to maybe learn to play guitar or keyboards, and with much more time at home now, they're taking some of these lessons online and making very good progress. Lots of things like different types of hobbies. Maybe it's gardening or maybe it's cooking, but people are using online video to learn to be better and improve on their hobbies. So, but the demand for entertainment hasn't stopped. This, what's especially missing is live sports. So we are aware that, as the summer goes, we'll start to see football, European football matches played maybe in empty stadiums, rugby, cricket, lots of different sports with empty stadiums. Same where I am in the U.S. Our football, baseball, we're talking empty stadiums. Some of it, like auto racing, Formula One has been doing virtual races. So there's these platforms that simulate racing, and the actual drivers actually are doing that, but online. We have the same thing happening in the U.S. And they're getting a huge pull. Millions of people are streaming and watching these events. And I just saw this article in Sports Pro that they've pulled in 30 million streamers just for the Formula One event. So we're going to talk about some implications of the whole sports broadcasting ecosystem and sports rights, and what are some things that may happen. Now, there's some challenges, of course, because all these traffic behaviors were unpredictable. We didn't know. It's just amazing in March, in a 2-week span, how things changed, and traffic patterns changed drastically. So as Limelight being a content delivery network, we noticed a big change in the time of day that people were doing things online. And the whole concept of prime time has changed. It's not just in the evening now. It could be any time of day. Students are home trying to take online classes. You have very short notices, breaking news going on, things like that. And just the overall volume of video is up between 30 and 50% globally. But all of the various networks, CDN networks in the world, are so far doing a very good job of handling all this and scaling up, and we'll talk about that. Some of the regulatory issues, some companies have been asked to lower the bit rates of movies they deliver, just so that there's enough capacity for like more emergency traffic and so forth. So some of that's been going on, but I see that easing now. Netflix has returned to doing a lot of streaming in 4K video, high definition. And I know that a lot of networks have scaled up during this. We have scaled capacity of our networks as well. What CDNs have to do is there's several ways of doing it. So everybody's POP map looks pretty much the same. You see that they have major points of presence in places you'd expect. And to increase it, you have several choices. You can add additional capacity in a POP, so you can put in more server hardware. You can increase the number of POPs. So that's one thing we've done, is added POPs in parts of the world where we didn't have them before. And the other thing is increasing the link speed that connects the POPs together. So we have a private fiber network, so we've been increasing the bandwidth of the different links that connect these together. And then there's other things you can do. You can do load balancing. So when you're sending traffic, you can use multiple links and balance the traffic. And so that helps in expanding the capacity. We do with customers something called capacity checks. So they make predictions about how many streams they think that will be on demand, and we can do some network engineering and add different capacities to certain links to accommodate that. We try to serve the streams close to where users are, so that cuts down the performance problem. And always having network engineers in the operations center, especially during live events, just monitoring and watching traffic, and they can do dynamic network engineering if they see that capacity might be exceeded in some area. So a lot goes on sort of behind the scenes during these live events everywhere. Another one that's very common, especially for live, is we call MultiCDN. So using more than one content network, especially for popular live events. There was just before the lockdowns, there was a big soccer Premier League set of matches that Amazon distributed. and they used 5 CDNs to distribute the load. So part of that was capacity, but a bigger part was just availability. So the idea is if you have multiple CDNs and any one of those has a performance problem, the load will automatically shift to the other, so you don't have any issues with users. Because live is interesting, because anything that goes wrong, your viewers see it immediately, no question about it. So it's very, very common to have 2, 3, 4, or even 5 CDNs being used when you have any of these popular live events. And the way it works is from their origin storage, so wherever they're delivering the live from the stadium, they prepare the video, so they'll format it into the different popular formats like HLS and Dash, and multiple bit rates. So depending on the end user viewer's device and the internet connection, they may be able to have 4K video or maybe only standard definition video. So all of those renditions or types of streams are generated. And then you distribute them among the CDNs. So in this case, I'm showing 3. So what they typically do at the start is they give an equal volume of traffic to each of the CDNs, and they do performance monitoring during the event. And there's a couple of ways that's done. Sometimes we can get data from viewers, players, that they beacon that data and about their video quality and the performance is one way to do it. Or at the CDN delivery edge, there's monitoring there about connectivity status going to viewers. And you use that data so that if one CDN seems to have a small performance problem, you can shift more traffic to the others. And this is all done pretty much automatically by the monitoring software. And there's several companies that specialize in software that does things like this. And this works very, very well. And I'm always interested in this. So during a lot of live events, I will watch my Limelight dashboard, and I can see the performance of the different CDNs that are delivering the traffic and watch how that changes during an event depending on everybody's performance. So it works very, very well. So I showed a typical online video workflow here for both live and on demand. And this is very much how any content delivery network would look if they drew a picture. So to make it simple, typically you use a single format ingest. So the most common for live is RTMP. For on demand, it's MP4. And you'll send in either the highest bit rate that you can, and in the network, it can transcode those down to lower bit rates, or some video providers provide all the different bit rates themselves and feed those in. So I'm showing on demand. We have maybe multiple renditions of the same video coming in. And then in the network, it's just automatic transmuxing to the popular formats. And the way that happens is each device that's connected in their requests, the network can tell what format the video has to be in. So, for example, if somebody's watching on an Apple iOS device, the request will be for an HLS stream. If somebody has a streaming device like a Roku, the request will probably be for an MPEG-dash format, etc. The device detection can also look at the screen size, and it looks at the connectivity to that viewer, so we can serve the highest bit rate possible. To have adaptive bit rate is very, very common. So what you do is you try to have the fastest bit rate that you can for each individual viewer's local internet connectivity. And that's just part of the request negotiation that goes on as you look at the bandwidth of the connection and you negotiate for the fastest speed possible. So that's a lot of services, a lot of servicing that's being done by the CDN to do that. And it's all automatic, so the right video gets there. Some other services, if it's a live event, usually you want to record that so you can monetize it by having other views. So while you're streaming live, you can record, so live to VOD recording. So you get recordings of the video that's put in CDN storage that you can pull down. So immediately after a live event, you can immediately on a website put an on-demand version of that. If you have rights protected video, you might want to use digital, DRM to protect it. So it's a form of encryption, and you have to be an authorized viewer to be able to hit the decryption key and do that. So it's very, very common for especially movie and film content and TV shows that it's all rights protected. And sometimes the content owners do the DRM, or the CDN can do that. And a lot of things like access control, some content is restricted to certain geographic areas, so that the rights to it may restrict what country you can show it. So that's another service that CDNs can do, is protect that and make sure that it's only viewed by people in the authorized area. So a lot of services here that take a very, very complicated workflow and try to make it as automatic as possible for content owners. Something else that's a very popular topic now is the idea of edge compute or edge services. So content delivery networks, because they have so much capacity and so much compute power in their edge delivery service, that they can run other software. So some content providers have their own software that they can put in the edge where it's delivered to do certain functions. A common one is doing dynamic ad insert. So this is a way of getting around the problem of ad blockers. So when video is being delivered, whether it's live or on demand, at the edge, you can modify the manifest and insert an ad dynamically on the server side and then deliver it. And in this way, you defeat ad blockers. They don't sense the typical exchange of inserting an ad. The ad just becomes part of the stream, and it can't be blocked. So that's popular. Another function is what I call geolocation. So this is where I was talking about, for different geographies, there may be restrictions on where things can be viewed. So one way to do that is at the edge. You detect from the incoming IP address what location somebody is in and can deny or allow access. And these are pretty smart. Even people that use anonymizers to try to disguise their IP address, the anonymizers addresses that are used are well known by the geolocation software, and they will block access from anyone using an anonymizer. So there's a lot of, these are just some examples. Watermarking is something that the film industry uses. It doesn't stop unauthorized sharing, but it's a way to deter it. So the watermarking is something invisible, but every copy of a movie that's sent to a viewer to watch has a watermark on it. So if there's an unauthorized copy of that movie that's out somewhere, a studio can view that and look at the watermark and know exactly who the viewer was that received that original copy, and then they can take legal action against them. So watermarking is more of a deterrent than actual blocking, but it's very, very effective. So that's just a few examples. In the gaming world, people are doing something like delivering parts of games at the edge. So when you think about how fast video games can be and the interactivity there, you need to have very, very low latency. So when somebody is moving their control stick, they want to see the action on the screen really quickly. So parts of the game actually run in the network edge. So this is something relatively new. Most CDNs support this, and we're going to see this be a popular thing going forward. And of course, security. So we already talked about most of this. So the digital rights management against usage, watermarking, access control, location. Two others, DDoS attack. This is more against the website. Everybody is probably familiar with this. It's just attacks on the site to try to make it inaccessible to normal viewers by just sending requests for information. So having a DDoS attack interception service is really, really important to keep the website up and running. And as part of that is also security for your web application. So If you're delivering video, it's all a web, you're delivering it through web applications. So you need a web application firewall and a bot manager so that people cannot launch a bot attack against a website. And the idea is not to prevent people from accessing content, but to steal data like consumer private information, credit card numbers, social security numbers, things like that. So you need to protect your web applications. So a web application firewall and a bot manager could do that. So this is a suite of services that are fairly common from CDNs that are offered as part of the service. So for us at Limelight, when we deliver video, automatically these various services, most of them are included in the service, like geolocation, tokenization, things like that, and some are extra cost. So I mentioned earlier on about live video and the rights market and so forth. So one of the things we've seen because of the lack of live sports is the traditional incumbent sports broadcasters around the world. So every country, they're different, but they've negotiated the rights to broadcast or stream events. So football, basketball, all the different sports, rugby, and they've negotiated those, earlier before the seasons start. And now without the live events, all the revenue they've been counting on for the advertising for these is just evaporating. So they're under a lot of financial pressure right now. And that's why there's a lot of work going about trying to get sports restarted, maybe with empty stadiums for safety. But in the meantime, the big social media tech giants like Google, Amazon, and others, Facebook, have been bidding for broadcast rights for sports. So we've seen like Amazon did this Premier League football, and it was only available on streaming. It was not broadcast traditionally. So one of the things that may happen as the year goes on is the sports rights market may fragment further, where the traditional big networks that typically provide the broadcast and the streams of the games are going to get competition from the big social media companies that have very deep pockets and haven't had the financial pressures of the broadcasters about lack of ad revenue right now without the sport. So, I don't know what'll exactly happen. It's just something I've heard discussed in various articles that this could be very interesting to watch later on this year. So sort of a summary here. The idea is, global networks are really good at this, delivering content, especially now as it's grown. And if you're going to deliver video, it's a really good idea to leverage there's experts that know how to handle it. We know how to distribute it. Can offer different ways of delivering low latency. When you think of sports, there's a big push for eliminating the stream latency, so it's not 30 seconds or a minute behind the broadcast. A lot of different ways of doing that with small chunk streaming or other protocols like CMAF, and reduce that to match the broadcast, so you don't have the spoiler problem where somebody watching a broadcast texts something about a goal that was scored, and somebody watching online maybe is a minute before he sees that, so there's a delay, so that can eliminate that. The CDN, just their massive capacity, can handle unpredictable loads. But one thing for sure is these new behaviors we saw about working from home, about watching more video, about workout classes online. A lot of these behaviors, people say, will continue even after we're through this crisis. So into 2021, a lot of these behaviors will linger for quite a while because it's been convenient for them. I think a lot more people maybe will always work from home and not go in the office so much. I would like to only go to the office maybe one day a week and work from home. It makes for a better lifestyle. So I'm very interested in seeing how this looks. I'm going to do another survey like the one I discussed at the end of Q3, just to see what people's behavior is then and just compare it to what it is now and publish the data. So I want to go into a Q&A session now. Talked a lot about.
Yeah, thank you, Charles. We now come to the Q&A session. You have already entered some questions. Thank you very much for that. First question is, the online video viewing increases are driving free for 30, 60, 90-day subscription. What is likely to happen post-crisis?
That's really interesting to everyone. So the average up before the crisis, the average worldwide in terms of number of paid subscriptions was just under 2, maybe 1.8 globally. And that's an interesting number because if you think about the total number of subscription services out there, you know, it's just hundreds of them. It's staggering. And if the average person or the average household has 2, and you know, there's a small percentage that have, you know, 3 or 4 of these, it's pretty clear that 100 of them are not all over a long time are not all going to be able to monetize and survive. It's extremely competitive. Now, in this last survey, we've seen the number go up a little bit because they're watching more video at home. They're trying other new services to add on and just getting different content. I know myself, I've added 3 different services because they offered free for 60 days. So I said, sure, I'll take them free. And I've started to like some of their programs. And after the 60 or 90 days, now I have to pay. And now I'm just now at the point of having to decide which ones I'm going to keep. But I think of the 3 new ones, I'll probably keep 1 or 2 of them because I really like the shows. And that's one of the questions I'll ask in my Q3 survey is how many subscriptions have you kept? How many of these? So my prediction is that most people will probably keep maybe at least 1 more new one. So I expect that average to go from 2 to 3. So we'll see.
Okay, second question. What does the increase in video traffic mean for content delivery networks?
Yeah, it's one of those, it's a nice problem to have. So it ramped up quickly. Initially, it was a small problem because it was so unpredictable about what the patterns were going to be. So I can tell you that most CDNs in the first few weeks in March were doing a lot of network engineering in their network operations center to shift capacity around regionally by time of day, just understanding sort of what the new patterns are and also increasing capacity. So I know during this, the amount of CDN capacity has increased by many terabytes. People have added new servers, hardware servers to their points of presence, or they've built new ones, just during this time. So the global CDN capacity has sort of grown to match. What's still going on is adjusting for regional, because overall the total aggregate around the world is really high, but that doesn't mean every single region has scaled up enough. So sometimes you have what we call hot spots, where a certain time of day in a certain region, the capacity is, strained. We have to add even more. So those adjustments continue to go on. But generally, I have to say that it's been handled fairly well. We're pretty happy about it. Next.
Thank you. Next question. What are some implications of new uses for online video?
So the ones I think that have the biggest is I mentioned the office market. So friends of mine in the commercial office market are nervous about this because they build and lease this space out in big cities, and they're seeing this very, very rapid pullback from companies to say, I don't need so much office space. I want to cancel some of this. And what they're saying is they're going to try to keep as many people from home as possible. If they're a company that has offices maybe globally, in some major cities, they will have what they call a landing pad. So it would be maybe not a big office to have a lot of people in, but kind of a presence maybe on part of a floor, so that when people visit from other parts of the world, they can have meetings in the city or some people that work for that company near the city could go in the office if they wanted, but they're not going to size this so that all the employees in that city can go to the office anymore. And that's a pretty common thing. And so their forecasts for what used to be the big demand for office space, when they look at their forecast, has now shrunk a lot. And there's even a few, I know I'm in Boston, a few new buildings that started construction, and already they're changing the plan. So they're not going to build them as tall. They're going to reduce the number of floors that they build. They're going to change some of the uses. Instead of just office space, some of it may be more residential. So they're making these rapid adjustments even during construction to account for this. And it's so hard because nobody really knows what this is going to look like in a few years. But they're just reacting to what they see now. But this could be, I think this is a big thing because everybody has just enjoyed these last months of when you are driving, the traffic is so low. It'd be great if that can continue, and if nothing else, just to keep the air cleaner and give the planet a break. We talked about the sports market, so I think that's the major implication, is just that shift, and then just so many things more at home, social kind of things, more that's going to continue on Zoom. Okay.
Thank you. Do we expect new video consumption behaviors to become the new normal?
Yeah, I think we're already seeing the new normal. I am already in the new normal. Deep friends of mine live far enough away that I only see twice a year. Once a month, my wife and I schedule what we call a Zoom dinner. So we set up laptops and we eat dinner and have cocktails and Zoom, and we could see each other, across the table on this. And we do this now on a regular basis. We have them scheduled, doing it for lunch. Workouts from home. Many people now say, I really want to keep this instead of going to a gym or a building. I feel much safer working out at home, just being on the video. So hobbies is another one. People, any online learning music, learning about making your hobbies better. They've learned how easy it is to get this instruction online and on demand, that I think that's going to continue, and that's just become the new normal now. So, how much people return to the old ways, I think this going back to the old normal, I think that's gone. There's just going to be a new normal. Maybe, I don't know if everybody's happy about that, but it's pretty clear.
And the last question is, what can we expect for empty stadium live sports viewing?
Yeah, so without people in the stadiums, this is an opportunity for sports broadcasters to try new formats. So one of the problems has been with a full stadium, it limits where you can put the cameras and what you can do with the cameras. With the stadium being empty, we expect to see them put more cameras around and in places where it used to be impossible, like where typically fans would be sitting. So when we start seeing the sports start up again, I expect to see a lot more options for looking at the from different angles, different ways of using the video with overhead. We've seen some software to do sort of like 3D, where you take the video, multiple cameras, and you can create different images about it. One of the most innovative things I've heard is, we're so used to watching a big sporting event and seeing the fans cheering, holding the banners and so forth, and it'll feel strange missing that. So some people are looking at an app where people that are watching a stream of it, they can have an app that turns on their webcam so that if they're watching, they can cheer, and having software that aggregates this. So if you think of these big stadiums and those big giant video screens they have, what they could do is start showing the videos from viewers at home from their webcams, and showing a huge number of them with people like holding up banners, cheering, and amplifying their comments and so forth. So you bring that crowd noise in. We had an experiment with this with American football. We had this player draft for college players, and they did this using that kind of technology where you could see people watching at home, and they had this huge video board showing hundreds and hundreds of people at a time watching and cheering and so forth as a test. So we might see that during some of these broadcasts, but good chance to do some experimenting and make the viewing experience different. Maybe even adding in-event betting. It's just starting in some regions now that during a live event, making bets on the action. And when I mentioned the low latency streaming, this enables that ability to offer opportunities to make a bet because there's no time delay between the action, very low time delay between the action and the bettor. So I'm really excited to see what kind of innovations come about.
Looks like we answered all your questions. Charles, is there anything else you would like to mention?
Only that, I hope this was useful for everyone. I'm excited about, the positive side of what can come out of this. I'm looking forward. I already have the questions for my next survey that I'm going to do in Q3, and I'll start sending that out. And I'm going to schedule a very similar kind of webinar like this out later in the year to talk about the results of that, to see how many of my predictions that I mentioned are coming true. And so if this was useful, I hope to see people again on a future webinar.
Thanks, Charles. Wir sind nun am Ende des Webinars angekommen. Vielen Dank an Charles Kraus für die interessanten Einblicke in das Bandbreitenmonitoring und den Lösungen von Limelight Networks dynamisch wachsenden Anforderungen zu begegnen. Seine Kontaktdaten sehen Sie auf der Folie. Bitte scheuen Sie sich nicht, ihn direkt zu kontaktieren, falls Sie Fragen haben. Wir bedanken uns für Ihre Aufmerksamkeit und hoffen, dass die gebotenen Informationen für Sie nützlich waren. Noch einmal der Hinweis, das Webinar wurde aufgezeichnet und wird später on demand zur Verfügung stehen. Einen entsprechenden Link erhalten Sie per E-Mail. Ich hoffe, Sie beim nächsten Webinar wieder begrüßen zu können und wünsche Ihnen bis dahin eine erfolgreiche Zeit. Auf Wiederhören.